Okay, so here's H4. This should be short. So the directions are that you are given the graph of f. State whether f prime of a is 0, undefined, greater than 0, or less than 0. So here's our 4 graphs, and I've indicated a point, an x value a on each of them. Okay, so let me just say a few things. Okay, so here's a situation where we have f prime equals 0. Okay, so I just want to do a little demonstration. So f prime, actually, let me maybe say some words first. Okay, let's see if you can even see that. Okay, for the derivative to exist at a point, the tangent slopes, which is the derivative. So the tangent slopes on either side of the point need to be approaching the same slope, okay? So here's an example. So we're going to consider the derivative as soon as the camera focuses. Come on. Okay, so we're going to consider the derivative here. We know that the tangent is horizontal there. Okay, so f prime would be equal to 0. But notice what's happening on either side. So if I start like over here, and if I just follow this sequence of points, and the slopes of the tangent lines at that point, we start getting closer and closer and closer to a slope of 0. Okay, so that's like the limit. That's like a limit idea. Okay, and then as we're approaching, as our tangent slopes are approaching that same point from the right, again, it's like smoothing out to like a horizontal line. Okay, so let me say it again. For the derivative to exist at a point, the tangent slopes on either side of the point need to be approaching the same slope. So in that case that I just showed you, they were both, the tangent slopes from either side were approaching 0. Now, here's the thing. I don't know why I did this like sticky note thing. I'm just trying to save paper, I guess. But this only happens if the graph is smooth at that point. Okay, so the graph needs to be smooth in order for that to happen. So let me show you some counterexamples. So here we've got a point. At this point, the graph is not smooth. Okay, we've got like a corner, or it comes to, this is called a cusp, but it's like a corner sort of thing. Now let's look at the tangent slopes. From the left, it looks like they're actually approaching like a vertical situation. Oh, and the slope of a vertical line is undefined, so that actually works. And then here, so these slopes are getting more and more and more and more and more and more negative. But these slopes actually are getting more and more and more and more and more and more positive. So you do end up with a vertical line which has an undefined slope, but even as you're approaching that vertical line, it's like approaching it in different ways. Here it's approaching it. Here the tangent line is approaching that vertical line by getting more and more and more and more negative, and here it's approaching it by getting more and more and more and more positive. And in any event, they're not agreeing. Okay. Here's another situation. The absolute value function. The derivative exists on either side of this, but it doesn't exist here because the slopes don't agree. For any point on this side, f prime of x is 1. For any point on this side, f prime of x is -1. So the slopes from either side are not coming to an agreement at this point here. Okay, so that's another way of looking at it. But okay, so we've only got the derivative only exists if we have a smooth graph. Okay, if we have any corners, it's not going to work. So if you are, all right, so here we go. So this one here, so here's A. I'll go up to the graph. Okay, and you can draw a little tangent line if you want. I have this transparency, so I'll go like this. Now, I hand drew this, so it's not going to be perfect, but, all right, so here's a case where f prime of A equals 0. Okay, now this one. So here's A. Let me go up to the graph. Oh, look at the tangent line. F prime of A is greater than 0. Okay, this one here. Okay, there we have a case where f prime of A is less than 0. And then here, this is the situation that we were just talking about. Guys, it is not smooth here. Okay, this is not, the graph is not smooth at this point. That means that f prime of A is undefined. Okay, there we go.